Welcome, everyone, to today's AAISP webinar. We're so glad that you have joined us. My name is Bob Perkins. I'll be your host today. I'm with the AAISP. We're a global inside sales community that's dedicated to raising the professionalism and performance of inside sales. Check us out. I'm sure there's a local chapter in your area that you can attend. So let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome a special guest, Joe Caprio. Joe, welcome.
Bob, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited.
It's going to be a fantastic topic. Joe is the VP of Sales at Chorus. Chorus, by the way, a great supporter of the AISP and the community. And, you know, we were just at a executive retreat where the talk of the leaders there was all about how to develop, how to coach. They seem to think this is one of their biggest challenges. But today we're going to look at some science and data behind this that Joe has prepared. So let's get right into it. Joe, thanks again for joining us.
No, it's my pleasure. And Bob, we love the program. We love to be supporters. I've been a member for years. Even at my last company, we did a lot of your shows together, and I really support the mission. This is going to be a lot of fun. So why don't we jump in? I'm here to talk about insights and data and lessons that we've learned from our customers. And essentially what we're talking about is it takes a village to raise a sales team. And, you know, these poor folks in sales leadership or sales enablement are kind of on an island. And how do we get the reps to engage? How do we get the frontline managers to support the mission? And so luckily for the folks that are dialed in here, this isn't my opinion. I'm not here to tell you how to do your job. I'm taking information from my customers, and I'm one of those lucky companies where, you know, we did our Series B at the end of last year, so we're still growing and we're early. It's in you know, brand new space, but we work with publicly traded customers. We work with some of the fastest growing, most impressive tech companies out there. And what I do is I go and I work with our customers to understand how they're leveraging our software and just how they're going about doing their job and how they're building a company. And then I take back and distill those best practices and I share them with people. Bob, before I jump in, I wanted to thank you for hosting us at the retreat last week in Atlanta. We had a blast. I had two of my sales leaders with me down there. We did your show in Norwood this year. We have a ton of customers that are members of the organization, and it really is like a fulfilling thing to be a part of. So kudos to you.
Well, thanks. I lost at golf, but there were a lot of winners on the skeet shooting, I heard, and the horseback riding.
Well, it was really a fantastic week. So,
yeah.
All right. So listen. Here's the story that I want to kind of share with you. Like, my background is in sales and sales leadership and sales enablement. I've done every job from IC to director, VP, and sales trainer. But my real passion is enriching employees and taking people into an organization and teaching them life skills and career skills and like giving them an opportunity to make more and achieve more for the rest of their life. So it was at Insight Squared, where I ran sales training and readiness, that I met Chorus, and I used Chorus to train and you know, develop my people, and it worked to the point where I came and joined the company. So about a year and a half ago, I joined Chorus, and the first thing you do as a new VP of sales is you go meet your customers. And so I've had the pleasure of working with some really impressive companies and some real like industry experts on the concept of like sales readiness and sales training. And what we're finding is there was a huge influx or growth in like the rev ops or sales ops role as we moved our sales teams inside and we started to invest in bigger tech stacks. And the smart, you know, rapid growing companies realized if I tool my people and I leverage the data from those tools, I can build a smarter business. It's about revenue, not, you know, growing at the same rate as your spend. It's about revenue growing as a result of efficiency. Well, the next wave that the VCs are talking about is if I'm going to give you $100 million and ask you to go hire 200 people in the next 12 months, what are you doing to get them ready? And so this is a real growth segment in our space right now, and it's important. And in the hunt for like efficient revenue growth, this is a real frontier. And so, you know, I'm blessed for the customers that we have and the learning that I can get from them. And I'm here to share like 3 very specific things with the audience. The first one is kind of a problem statement, you know? Why does success hurt you? How come if you're growing really fast and you're achieving and you're hitting your numbers, why does your sales team get weaker at an individual basis? And what are the things that you can do? There's a maturity model here. So at what stage of your growth do you make investments in enablement and training? And what are those investments? And I'm going to give the audience kind of a curve they can follow and say, where am I today? And am I subscribing to best practices? And what investments and plans do I need to make to keep up as we grow? And then finally, I'm just going to give you 4 pieces of like really easy takeaway advice. And I don't mean to be confrontational, but a lot of my experience has been that the biggest challenge for the enablement role is getting frontline sales leadership to play along, support the mission, enforce the training, inspect adoption. And so I want to give you some really tactical advice to get those frontline managers to level up beyond just, super AE. You know what I mean? And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So first thing I'm going to share is my favorite visual is this hamster wheel that we're all on. You crush your number at the end of Q3, you come in on the weekend, you load the report and everyone's back down to zeros. You had a record setting quarter, but here we are, we've got another number to hit this month. And the funny thing is when you think about the way we're building these companies, it really is a race to unicorn status in 5 years. And so if you're a company that's productive right now and you hit your number doubles and your headcount doubles. So you get to year 2 and you look out at your sales floor and it's like 50% of the people on your team have been there for a year. But it's actually worse than that because you have to lose the bottom reps through attrition, and the top reps either go take higher paying jobs or they promote into manager. So if you hit your number and you double your sales team, you've got like a 30 reps with experience. Hit your number again in year 2, and now you're looking at like 25% of your people being actual trustworthy, like autonomous salespeople. So you wake up one day, 3 years of consecutive 300% revenue growth, and you have an army of salespeople, and you are just waking up in cold sweats in the middle of the night because you have no idea what those kids are saying on the phone. That's the success paradox. The better we do, the faster we grow, the worse our ICs get. And so there's a real challenge afoot here. And if you don't believe me, argue that this isn't what your team looks like. Every company out there has like 2 or 3 out of 10 hitting their number, meaning 1 in 3 individuals actually hit their quota. Now, as a company, it might net out because they're 150, 200% the goal. You've got some 80%ers, some 60%ers. It nets out to 100% of the company's number, sure. But at an IC level, you've got a handful of rock stars, and then you've got this whole pack mentality where, I'm 60% to goal and I'm going on a plan. Then the next quarter, I'm 100% to goal and, I made it. Well, the next quarter, I'm back down to 60% to goal. And it's like, you got to ask yourself, are these guys ever going to come good? Are they ever going to really become like autonomous, trustworthy, bankers? And so you ask yourself, why don't I just replace them? Right? Well, average ramp time in SaaS sales or B2B sales is 7 months. And so if you wanted to hire anyone this year and have them contribute meaningful revenue to your org, it's mid-October, you're 4 months too late. So, most of your people aren't productive by the numbers. It takes too long to replace them. And the next obvious question is like, where's the manager in all this? So I hear this question all the time. Like, I thought the manager is supposed to be training them. Like, how come the manager isn't inspecting? But you have 8 direct reports. And every rep on your team averages 3 hours a day of talk time. And so you literally have 24 hours a day of conversations that are under your purview. Where's the manager? When I was a frontline manager, my coaching is I'd plug in. I had the splitter, and I would plug in with the rep, and I'd, take over the call, and I would win the deal for them. And then I'd unplug, and I'd say, hey, like, that's not what she meant. Don't pitch it like that. CC me on the email. I'll make sure this thing comes in. I got to go. I have another call to plug into. And it's like that, 90 seconds of like on the floor, quick instructions. Like, that's coaching from a frontline manager. We revert to type. We go back to what we know. These high productive reps have become managers, and they know how to do deals. They don't know how to be coaches. They don't know how to train. So their coaching and training is just rescuing deals. But there's an impact to this when you think about it. Let's poll the audience, Jen. We surveyed the frontline managers, and we surveyed the sales reps. And we asked, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good of a coach is your manager, right? And the average reps are out there saying, I give my manager a 38 out of 100. You Uber, right? 5-star, 5-star. You get this rank out of my face. They need to order another ride. 5-star, 5-star. If I give somebody like a 1-star or a 2-star, I'm trying to hurt that driver, So a 38 out of 100, it's worse than a 2-star. And so, I was at risk. They drove unsafe. The car was dirty. They were rude to me. 1-star, and I hope that corporate sees this. So these are frontline salespeople talking directly about their boss and saying they get worse than a 2-star. You ask those same managers at those same exact companies, where do you rank on the coaching scale? And they're giving themselves a 79 out of 100. Yeah. That's one extra credit project away from being a B-. And so they're basically saying, like, my rep thinks I'm a 2-star, but if I came in tomorrow and just like patted a kid on the back and said, like, you're doing good work, I'd be a B-. So there's like huge discrepancy right now, right? Like where's the rub here? So let's see, like, what does the crowd think, Jen? Is this on the rep, they're not listening, or is this on the manager?
Oh, so Joe, do we have a lot of individual contributor reps on the phone, maybe just kind of pointing at the manager, or what do you think?
But you know what I see this come in, Bob, is I think below and above, I think the reps are complaining that the managers don't coach them well. And I think senior leadership is saying, I don't see results. I don't see evidence of strong coaching. And so I think we probably have a lot of C-suite and VP level on this call saying, I wish my frontline managers would grow up and learn how to coach. And I think we have a lot of reps on the call that are either, mistaking their lack of quota attainment for bad coaching, or they're accurate. But here's the rub.
Yeah, I got to tell this, share the comment came in. I'm a director and I see poor manager coaching. So there you go. All right. And
right, exactly.
Yeah. And I think you could be a manager and even say, you know what, I may be okay at coaching, but I don't do it enough. Most managers would admit that, I think, but good stuff.
Well, you know what the hardest part here is? I'm at the Sales Enablement Conference down in San Antonio right now, and a lot of the conversations about sales enablement as a title, right, it almost precludes you from being manager enablement. And so the reality is I don't actually fault the frontline manager. This is not an all-out assault on frontline manager. I love sales. I love salespeople. I love sales managers. And they are like the hardest working, highest attaining. They deserve promotion. But you didn't onboard them the right way, did you? You didn't teach them how to do this, and you're not a great coach. I'm a selling VP sales. I'm on the road every day. I'm doing customer calls, right? I'm not doing a ton of coaching. Now I promote these kids that are a couple of years into the industry. They were never taught the right way, and now I'm saying, hey, go be a coach. It's like, what, like you? Join the calls and take over the deals, right? And so there's a challenge here, but the reality is I'm making you take this poll, but it almost doesn't matter who's right. It almost doesn't actually matter if it is the rep's fault or the manager's fault, because the simple truth is reps are going to quit your organization if they don't feel like they're learning. You can't always give them a title. You can't always give them a promotion, right? I can't just give you more money every time you're upset, but I can give you the belief, right? The understanding that you're investing in your future, learning years and earning years. And so having a proper enablement function and at least the belief that these kids are learning will allow you to maintain lower attrition rates, therefore higher quota attainment, less turnover in the territory, fewer friction calls with customers that suddenly have another new CSM. So coaching is super impactful and it needs to happen. It's not a blame game that I'm trying to go for here. I'm just exposing that there's a discrepancy in people not getting coached, but the coaches thinking that they're coaching.
These numbers are incredible. I mean, just look at the 47%. Roughly half the managers spend 5% of their week, if that. That's not even 5%, 2% probably. What do you think?
It's an hour every other week of film review.
Yeah. Why do you think? What's behind this, Joe? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the simple reality is that there's a misunderstanding of what actual coaching is. And so you've heard for years you should separate a deal review meeting from a forecast meeting, because they're two different things. Excuse me. You should separate one-to-ones from coaching, because one-to-ones are about deal strategy and executing deals. And that's not coaching, that's deal advice. And so this 47% of people spending less than 30 minutes a week, that means that every other week or twice a month, they host a roundtable or they do like a role play, through the team, but they're not doing dedicated, blocked out, reserved time for coaching. They think coaching on the fly is impactful, but we all know it's not. You have to hear something 11 times to retain it. You have to touch it and feel it to really absorb it. And just giving them information on the fly after a call, that's not coaching. And so the reality is, why don't managers do this? Well, I can give you the talk tracks. I listen to the calls. I go to my customer's account and I pull the managers into the coaching program. And I always ask, why is this hard for you? What are the blockers? How could I enable you to be a better coach? And you see the answers. And the reality is it's again, I thought the other guy was supposed to teach that. How many times do you have someone come out of the onboarding program and not nail a pitch? And the manager's response is I thought you taught them this in onboarding, rather than how do I put them through a remedial course? How do I help enrich their skills? They really think that they're glorified super AEs, where the BDR books the meeting, the AE qualifies the opportunity, and then the manager closes the deal. And that's not the dynamic that is going to scale and going to build skills that are repeatable. So what do you do about it, right? And so this is information across our customer base. And what I've tried to put together for people is kind of like a scale that you can follow. So, J curves. And not everybody's venture backed. Some folks are bootstrapped or privately funded or private equity, right? But you can use this to kind of understand, are we an early stage company looking for product market fit? Are we in the mid stage here where we're looking to scale? Are we late stage where we're thinking about like efficiency of revenue or path to IPO? Where in this curve are we? You could also align like headcount or key hires. And so you think about when you add your true sales leader, not your selling, co-founder sales leader, but like an actual sales hire. When do you add operations to build out efficiencies in the tech stack that we talked about? And then when do you really build out like a real function of coaching and enablement? So where are we in this curve? Where's your organization in this curve? And then ask yourself if you're subscribing to the best practices of companies at your size. And so we work with some seed companies, we work with some growth companies, we work with some companies that are publicly traded, and through interviews and understanding of how we support them, we've been able to kind of back out, how is this supposed to work? And so you start to see a crawl, walk, run approach to coaching and readiness. In the beginning, right, I'm on my own, I'm a one-man army, and so I'll do the training, right? And I'll do a lecture every Monday morning in the go-to-market meeting. I'll reserve the last 15 minutes to deliver a new talk track. I'll do a one-to-one with my 5 sellers, and I'll role play at the end of the one-to-one. And I'm doing really basic content here, like what's our pitch, what's our value prop, what are the fire questions in discovery. You start to grow up a little bit, and you build some scaffolding around you. You hire operations to own a tech stack. You hire a couple of frontline managers, and now you can delegate and start to build out more programmatic assets. So you go from just lectures and one-to-ones, you start adding things like a mock call, a case study, a role play example, and you start looking at like bifurcating your pitch by product or by persona. You start doing things like, we're not just teaching you the pricing model, we're teaching you the most common concessions that are requested and how to do, trading instead of just discounting, right? And so your org matures, your needs mature, and your team matures, so you can start to do more programmatic stuff. At the mature side, when you really find a company that takes this serious, they have multiple teams, right? Then you start hiring somebody or delegating someone on your team to build enablement. And they use technology to do it, and it's more metrics driven. It's like, I want to see the lessons you're teaching. I want to see the engagement in those lessons. I want to see the change in behavior in the field, and I want to see that change directly, correlated, causated to results. And so then you have a much more serious program here where it's all tracked and all locked down in data. And so you can really start to look at like, where are we as a business? And hey, are we doing that yet? Have we split out our training? Have we built accreditation?
Joe, some really good, components here. What for those watching that might kind of be really early or, haven't really thought much about how to improve, do you have some tactical tips that you could share with them?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the real thing that we try to advise people on is like, there is no one size fits all answer, and it's not a race to the far right of the spectrum. You know what I mean? You could be very successful, wildly successful if you have product market fit, a hot product, like, good marketing team, and you have the right messaging in place for your reps, even without going to the far end. The simple truth is, though, you will improve results if you can set your frontline managers up to be in support of the message and be part of the training program. And so I have 4 cornerstones here that you can use to make sure your frontline manager is doing it right. And we're going to talk about their favorite thing to do, which is coach deals. We're going to talk about how to up-level that into a skill development coaching, so it's not a one-and-done lesson. We're going to talk about what is the right format of a one-to-one and how do you embed like regular coaching into the deal inspection one-to-one. And then we're going to talk about how simple it is and how rewarding it is to actually give people like a personalized coaching plan. Nobody likes to learn stuff they already know. Nobody likes to be grouped in with reps that are performing worse than them. And we just make the blanket statement, you're all going to learn discovery, right? So it's about getting personal at the end there.
I got to say, this reminds me of the professional athlete, right? They have a very personalized plan. 1, 2, they're always working at it. The best of the best still goes to the gym and works out and practices and drills. And here we are, sales professionals, like professional athletes. We need the same thing. This is great. So you're going to dig into this a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going to give you 4 takeaways, and
Nice.
my hope is that people find it useful and they can take an inventory of their frontline leadership. Again, it's not aggressive, just like coaching a frontline rep or an IC. You don't want to lead with aggression. You don't want to point out everything they're doing wrong. You want to give them help and explain how this is going to make them a better professional and open up paths that wouldn't be open to them otherwise. So let's focus on what you could do better, and I'm going to give it to you in 4 chunks here. So the concept of deal inspection, it takes place in a one-to-one. And typically what happens here is you bring a rep into a room and you're not prepared and you haven't looked at their pipeline yet, and you're asking them, hey, what's closing this month? What do you need help with? And the reality is the salesperson is not equipped to run a one-to-one. You should be. And so instead of asking a rep, what are you working on today? And you get like a 5-minute story, oh yeah, like I talked to her last week, man, it's going so good. Like, she takes my calls and like, she's into it, she gets it. I said this, and they go into a 5-minute story about what they said. And it's like, I don't really care what you said on the call. I'm focused on if you're progressing that deal, and I'm focused on finding what's missing. So the reality in a one-to-one is all of us at this point have subscribed to some form of a methodology like MEDDIC or BANT or whatever it might be. Even if it's homegrown, you've got custom fields on the opportunity in Salesforce that you want filled in, and filling in those fields should make the rep ask the right questions. So you have a program in place, and you've probably mapped out your stages and therefore the right questions per stage. I hope you're buyer focused. Here's my buyer journey, and therefore the conversations I have to have by stage. And you map those things into your CRM, right? Through stages and custom fields and exit criteria. So you have a very specific program you want reps to follow by stage. Yet when you do your one-to-one, it's a free-flowing organic conversation about whatever the rep wants to tell you. Why aren't you loading it from the top and saying, what's your overall forecast? Do you have enough to hit your number? If not, have you done the activities? Now, of the deals that are late stage, let me make sure you have procurement and sign off and everything. Now let's go to your mid stage, right? So I just made sure your closing deals are tight. Now let's go to your mid stage and make sure you have multi-threaded and you have, success criteria, and next month deals are going to come good next month. And then you go to the early stage and it's like, did you ask the right questions in discovery? So giving the manager a roadmap for deal inspection, you built it in a Google Doc, you designed it through Lucid Chart, you put it into your CRM, but you don't actually make your managers inspect against the framework. And it's actually really simple to do, but you have to give them that roadmap. So I would implore you, sit in a one-to-one, right? Sit in a one-to-one or ask them to record the one-to-one and inspect it after. Or create a Google Doc that has links to the right information and ask them to comment in the Google Doc. But create a repeatable, inspectable process to make sure that your message is being amplified throughout the org.
And then the reps begin to know what is expected of them, and they conform to the this type of culture of rigor, inspection, and what the manager wants to see.
Bob, you nailed it. You can ask me a question, and I'll admit I don't know the answer, but I'm sure as hell not going to show up next week and not know the answer again. And so to your point, if you don't have a consistent inspection process, your reps do not know what you're going to ask them. And therefore, even if they wanted to prepare for the one-to-one, they don't know what information to come in prepared with. And so you have to follow the same pattern every time. And you think about asking questions in the right order, right? Who's involved in this deal, and why are they involved, and what do they want, and why does that matter, and who else would be involved, and what do we plan to do next? Every time in the right order, or else you're really just getting piecemeal, random information about the deal.
Yeah.
All right. So that's deal inspection. It takes place in the one-to-one. Schedule the one-to-one, block out the time, tell them what to do, and most importantly, make them inspect the deals through a rigorous, regular process, the same inspection every time. Now, inspecting a deal highlights what's missing. There's a reason you put these fields in Salesforce, and it's not just so you can send your rep a nasty gram a couple of times a month, like, hey, your data's out of compliance. There's a reason you want this information, and it's to highlight what's missing on a deal. So I love my friend Peter from Lucid. He talks about managers love to coach the deal. They don't coach the rep. Like, how many times have you heard that? I'll get in there and fix a deal, but are they up leveling it to a skill conversation? And so you want to think about enabling your manager to highlight what fields are missing or what skills are missing, and say, this is not the first time that we've gotten to late stage and been single threaded. we really have to improve your multi-threading. It's happened on 5 deals so far this quarter. Let me take you over to our LMS or to this role play that we've designed. Let me show you examples of a top performer. And you want to have assets created for the most common skills. A lot of people say, I don't have the bandwidth, or I don't know what to coach. Oh God, there's just so much. There really are a handful of skills that you're going to really focus on. And so you source that from 2 places. The easiest place to source it from is actually the rep needs. You could literally send out a survey to the salespeople and the sales managers, or you could use the missing fields in your CRM to expose what the problems are. Those become your core courses, and you have an asset ready for each one of them. If it's negotiation, there's a buyer and seller case that you can let them role play. If it's discovery, there's a handful of good discovery calls that you can have them watch, right? If it's pricing, there's a calculator and a delivery exercise that you can do. But for the core skills you're going to focus on, give the manager an asset that they can use again and again. And now they're just helping the rep say, hey, what do you want to work on this month? You know what I mean? Because this is your challenge. We're going to move it into a skill coaching session. The other half of your topics come from company OKRs. What are you doing as an organization this year that matters? Did you acquire a smaller competitor, right? Are you launching a new product? Are you rolling out a new methodology, right? What's changing in the organization that would require our army of ICs to change their behavior? That's the other half of your coaching curriculum. And now it becomes really simple to just build out a regular calendar over the next 12 months. And you can change it on the fly, but have a plan in mind for what you're going to teach your people and when you're going to teach them, and get everybody into a weekly cadence. Film review once a week where we watch examples of good calls, right? Inspection focuses on this skill for the next month of one-to-ones. Like, organize your entire company around the topics and themes and get people involved. So you're not just you're at the mercy of your sales manager and whether or not they have a passion like I do about coaching. But not everybody does. Some folks are just about the money or about the next deal, or, they're just doing their job. You can't rely on people having like a personal project to do coaching. You got to lock it down, schedule it, and make it programmatic. You got to make it easy for people. Now you've got a skill coaching program in place. Let's go back to the one-to-one and talk about mapping it out for people. So I work with Matt Cameron from Sassy Sales Management. I think he's amazing. He's former Salesforce. He's got a ton of famous customers. And this guy has a motor. Like, I think I work hard, but this guy's incredible. He'll come in and interview you, and he'll find out what matters to you as an organization, what the manager should be doing in a one-to-one, and then he'll build a Google Doc, and he'll put it on a recurring invite. Your manager and rep has a one-to-one at 9 o'clock. The next rep comes in at 10 o'clock. The next rep at 11 o'clock, puts it on the calendar with a link to this Google Doc, and it links out to the Salesforce or Insight Squared or whatever reports you're using. And he says, go to the pipeline report, inspect the losses from last week, look at the forecast, look at the late stage deals, and it's all mapped out. And what Matt will do is he'll actually go in there and inspect your doc. He'll do this for you. He'll train your managers how to do one-to-ones. He'll give them the asset that they need, and then he'll log in and check that document and make sure they're doing the job the right way. And the latest wrinkle that he's added is he's got a section at the bottom of the document that links out to the training asset. And so now you're teaching and enabling and earmarking 15 minutes at the end of the one-to-one to click into the training asset and do some coaching live in the one-to-one. So you combine that with proper deal inspection, through a rigorous, dedicated process, dedicated timeout for training that happens on a recurring cadence, and then personal coaching in the one-to-one that links out to the assets that you've created. And it becomes a repeatable flywheel because it's all available to them in a one-click jump out to the right asset. Now, when it comes to that personal coaching piece, I also work with Misha from Humble Grid Sales, also a member of Matt Cameron's org. She runs a Sales Enablement Academy. So when you hire your first enablement person, or you're not confident that your enablement leader is getting the results, you can send them to Misha's school. And so I sell to sales enablement, and I'm heavy on customer empathy and understanding my customer, right? Not just how to sell to them, but what will actually make them successful, because that's what makes sticky customers. And so I send all of my customer-facing people to her school. Every AE, every customer success rep at Chorus is a certified sales enablement person. And what we learned in her course is how easy it is to do proper manager enablement. And one of the pieces of advice that she gives you is that coaching can't just be, across the board, the same program. You've got to make it personal for each rep. And so what we do at Chorus is this is a real screenshot down the bottom left here. I have a Google Doc that I turn over once a month, and it takes the rep, it takes the skill they want to focus on, and it links them out to the asset. Like I said, sometimes it's a case study we do. Sometimes it goes into our LMS. Sometimes it actually jumps out into like a Chorus playlist of good examples. And so my rep and my manager at the end of every month, they submit a status report. Here's what I focused on. Here's what I learned. Here's an example of me doing it differently in the field. And they're locking down. They're building commitment. It's like saying I want to lose weight versus like weighing yourself daily and like actually like measuring it.
It reminds me of the person that I've done this. I've gone to a personal golf trainer. Well, they're going to find weaknesses in me that, someone else that might be younger than me doesn't have. And they're going to prescribe stretching and exercises for the part of my game that needs the most work. Same type of deal, right?
Right. The golf analogy is perfect, Bob, because it also I play a little bit of golf and I'm a hack like most people, and I've taken some lessons, and it's like the worst thing that they can do to you is give you like 5 pieces of advice at the same time. Exactly. Like do a stronger grip because you slice, and keep your elbow straight, and also like move your head back. And like my whole swing is different. I don't know what I'm doing. And so the point is to say like, let's fix one thing. Let's work with the rep to pick what's the most impactful thing, right? And then you have buy-in from the rep that they believe this will help them make more money. You have mutual buy-in with rep and manager, and they're committing on focus on one thing at a time.
So if Dan that has discovery in October really gets good at discovery and he's got it now, next month might be something else.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And if he doesn't get it, then, we'll put him through discovery again. We're helping them, we're helping them get commitment. They're buying into the coaching. They're picking the topic. And if they don't get it right, we're going to do it again. We're going to focus until you get it right. The opposite of this is just getting up and lecturing to the whole team at once. And of course they're not adopting it because they don't have the emotional buy-in that they need this help. They're looking at the kid that's worse than them or the person that doesn't do it right. And they're like, I'm pretty good. This is more for the SMB team. Like, I'm an enterprise rep and I know how to do this. It's like horseshit, man,
So Joe, we got, I'm just looking at the clock now, and this was scheduled for 30 minutes now. If you're on the webinar, you got to jump off now. Please feel free to go ahead. A recording of the full webinar will be available to all attendees. I know we got a couple more slides. We'll wrap quick and we'll get to questions. Start putting your questions in the chat and we'll get to them.
Yeah, Bob, I'm out of content right now. I'm just here to help people and say I've got some assets on my website. You can send me an email and I'll give you some basics. I can help you train your managers and I'll make it really easy on you. That's the last piece that I have, and I was hoping we'd jump to questions. But.
Yeah, and we'll get to questions right now. So text them in. I'll look at the chat board. And Joe, you have that resource. Do you have a couple others you want to just share?
Yeah.
Right now while we're waiting on questions.
Sure. Yeah, I'm actually really excited about this that I wanted to share. We produced this monster piece of content. It just launched this week. And what we did is we actually interviewed like 300 of our customers, and we listened to 5 million recorded sales calls. I say we, but I mean our bots did. The AI listened to the calls. And we go in there and we analyzed, how are the top companies going to market, the companies that are growing and, improving their results, so you have an improved quota attainment per person, you have an improved, like more revenue than the year before. And we analyzed, how many calls early stage versus late stage, what's your no-show rate, how many questions are you asking on a discovery call, what's the difference when you win or when you lose. We compiled all this crazy powerful data from the interviews and from analyzing the recorded calls. And then we put it in a piece of content that you can slice and dice by your average deal value, your maturity. Like you can go in there and say, show me what the best companies in the world that look like me and sell like me, show me what they're doing and how to impact my results. It's on the website. It's free for everybody. I'm really proud of it. Like I really think this is like a wonderful asset.
Every person, every leader should review that. Now, we did have a couple of pre-submitted questions here, and we have one that just came in live. Let me do one pre-submitted, then we'll go to the live one.
Sure.
And we can catch that slide in a bit here, Joe. How do you approach leaders who don't seem vested in creating a learning culture? They're just, I'm too busy. I got to be on calls all day.
I was on a call with Chuck Marcoulier from Reflective this week, and I was at, I take a lot of information from my customers. They've done this for longer than I have. And, I was kind of running through these slides and I'm like, Chuck, what do you think? Is this going to play? Like, does this resonate? You've been in sales enablement for a decade. So what do you think? And he's like, Joe, the bane of my existence is a frontline manager. And I think back to my life at Insight Squared. I work hard. I come in on weekends. I put my heart into this. Like I sweat it out and I actually build out the talk tracks. I analyze the problems and I come up with solutions to them. I train my ass off, and I work hard. And you can tell, like I feel it. And then the reps go back out on the floor and they revert to type. And I asked the frontline managers, are you inspecting this? Are you supporting me right now? And it's like, hey, I'm busy. I got a lot of calls. I got 10 reps right now because we're understaffed on management. It's like, I don't have time for it. And this is actually like the hardest part about building a coaching culture is getting frontline managers to buy in. And so you want to think about frontline managers the same way you think about reps. Veteran reps are less likely to buy into coaching. Rookies are more likely to consume it. Leading with positive examples is more powerful than exposing flaws. And so when you go to your frontline managers, don't make the mistake that I made. I'm very aggressive and I'm very direct and you're going to do it my way or you're not going to be here. That doesn't really fly with these guys. They're top performers. They're used to being rewarded. Why don't you enrich what they're doing well and help them do something better and lead them through a path of this will make you more productive in your career and making more money over time. And let's work together to get you to do it. Give them a carrot to chase. Don't hit them with a stick.
Great. Good point. And then what's your recommendation for a 5-person sales team that has one VP, one manager, but they're all traveling, managing multiple deals? What kind of basics from a coaching perspective can we put in place to move the needle?
Yeah, I hate to rely on like every answer comes back to technology, but if you're like wearing every hat like I was, I was a selling VP here at Chorus and I joined Insight Squared really early, and as an IC I built out the coaching program because we didn't have one. So I come from early stage companies, like I work in startups. All of my customers are venture backed and growing, and so I relate. It's really about making it a recurring asset every chance you have. And so you think about, a one-to-one communication maybe has an impact on that one person in that one moment. But if you can make it a permanent asset, so leverage an LMS, leverage a product like Guru to actually map out your process, leverage call recording, and everything you do, ask yourself, can you carve out 30 minutes and kind of document the coaching you just did? And then you could use it again the next time the person comes up. One more idea is peer-to-peer coaching. Oh, yeah. So you learn 10% of what you hear, 20% of what you say, et cetera, et cetera. Why don't you get people that are really good at one skill to kind of be your discovery captain, your negotiation leader, and they can start leading sessions for the other people. And if your team's distributed, my team's distributed, all my customers are distributed, like, come on, Zoom, right?
Yeah.
You can call
through
Slack.
Like you can do a lot.
The problem is making it a recurring asset. The problem is not reach and access to your people. The problem is every time you want to train, you got to go build a PowerPoint deck over the weekend. Save that thing down, man. Keep using the same assets, and it builds consistency. See, you teach the same way every time.
Look, I love the theme here to enable the manager to be the coach, the trainer. Now, that is not always possible. Sometimes we do need to get third-party help. So a question just came in. What are your thoughts on outsourcing training to independent coaches, thought leaders?
I couldn't be more in favor. I believe in buying technology to make your team more efficient. I believe in leveraging, experts to make your team better too. So if you're growing your revenue at the same rate that you're growing your head count and therefore your cost, you're just a bigger company with the same margin. And so anything you can do that's short of hiring 10 more people, go do it. Buy a piece of technology. I work with Winning by Design. I work with John Barrows. I work with Xvoyant. I work with companies like that. And I have no shame in admitting that. Like, I'm good at my job and I'm good at sales, but I don't have the time or the resources. And it is short money on the grand scheme of things.
And so here's one I like. Get people out of the office, right? Oh, it's okay to take them off the phone. Send them to a webinar, a chapter meeting, right? A conference or something where they can soak it in, and they get outside the four walls and they see what other people are doing as well. So
sharpen that axe.
Hey, here's one that came in, kind of a cool one. How was the millions of recorded calls you did? Did they result in you creating some sort of personas and then a related playbook, cadence, or type of presentation based on personas.
Fascinating. So I'm imagining the question is, are we seeing, like, we can slice and dice our data by deal size or by things like company size. Could we also slice it by buyer persona? How do I sell to the sales leader? Because the buyer is different than when I sell to IT. That's fascinating. Whoever asked that question, reach out to me direct, and I'll let you know how much of that data fits your buyer profile. Not available on this asset right now, but the data is there, and I'd be happy to help.
That's great. Joe, we've it looks like we've wrapped with the questions. People are starting to sign off. Did you have one other slide you wanted to show on a resource? I wasn't sure.
Oh, yeah, sure. It's just how to reach me. I'm Joe at Chorus.ai, sales at Chorus.ai. We're on LinkedIn. We're everywhere. Get on our website. Come out and meet us, and ask us for the care package. Like, we're servant leaders. Like, my ICs, my sellers are sales enablers, and they're here to enable your sales team too. So we're happy to help. And if there's some business in it for us, great. But really, we're here to educate a market and help people progress.
Excellent. We love Chorus. Thanks also for those behind the scene today. Jen Gergen, who runs everything. She's behind that magic curtain. So thanks, Jen. And Joe, thanks.
Thank you.
And Joe, thank you so much. A great amount of thought leadership and some great ideas. Hey, if you're a leader out there, come on, let's start what Joe told you to do here. Get out there, get coaching, focus, and put to use some of these best practices. Joe, any final words?
Bob, thanks so much for having me. I'm like a real card-carrying member, and I'm proud to be a part of your organization. I think you do amazing work. And
thanks so much.
Me. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Yep. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of the week. Good selling and good coaching.